Cristobal has weakened over Mexico and Guatemala. I'm Mike Naso with an update on Tropical Depression Cristobal. It was a tropical storm. It's been over land now for at least 24 hours, maybe 30 hours, and it's moved further inland than I thought it would. But again, the forecast does still have it coming back out over water, but it won't be until, say, 36 hours from now, so Friday night, Saturday morning. And while that might keep it weak, that does not stop the rainfall, and that's been the main threat with this system. You can see after that it's expected by the Hurricane Center to strengthen into a tropical storm. How strong of one, we don't know. It could be 40 miles an hour, it could be 70 miles an hour. Nevertheless, there's a chance from anything from a tropical depression or storm to a Category 1 hurricane, so if you're on the Gulf Coast, keep an eye on Cristobal. And again, there has been a slight westward shift by Sunday and Monday when it makes landfall somewhere on the Gulf Coast, anywhere from Galveston to, let's say, Waveland, Mississippi. You guys are in the cone. Again, Louisiana seems most likely. However, because Cristobal will be large, spread out, we could see impacts well on the right side of the Gulf of Mexico. So Florida, western Florida, the Panhandle, you guys might get drenched as well. Again, here are the computer models, and a lot of these are starting to be on the western side or show some kind of a left-hand turn here, and that is an indicator that we could see maybe a little bit of ridging, maybe a little bit of a bend as it approaches the coastline. The European models, they certainly show that, with some showing some kind of a loop here over Louisiana and Texas. We don't want to see that. I mean, Allison back in '01 was just a tropical storm in June, but it came into Texas and then it just took that prolific track all the way up the East Coast, caused $6 billion in damage, killed many people. The flooding was horrific. Harvey, obviously, 3 years ago, it was Cat 4 in Texas, but then it sat as a tropical storm and rained like mad. So we don't want to see any kind of stalls. We want to get Cristobal in and out, which is still the most likely scenario, but again, you're talking 5, 6, 7 days, so there's a lot of time to watch it. Now, it does not look good on satellite. This is the visible satellite imagery. We have some sort of a spin taking shape right up here in that red circle. Watch that circle there that I just did on the north coast of the Yucatan. A little bit of a spin there, and we have a lot of what the Hurricane Center mentioned, these arc clouds. See these clouds? That is indicative of a very, very dry mid-level environment. So even though it's raining over land, the Gulf of Mexico itself is rather dry, and that is unfavorable for strengthening. That's why we don't expect Cristobal to explode or anything when it moves out over water. The center, again, this is, to get your bearings, see how good I am at geography, this is Mexico, this is Guatemala here, this is Belize, and then we have Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador, I believe. So you can see that the center is right over the Guatemalan-Mexican border, and it's all starting to finally make a little bit of a bend towards the north, which will eventually bring it back out over water. But look at these bands here of rain over the Caribbean Sea. If you're in areas like Chetumal, Mexico, Cozumel, Mexico, Cancun, sorry, but you guys are going to get a lot of heavy downpours. Weather will be nice and dry when it's not raining, but it's going to be raining a lot. So Cristobal wrecking any beachgoers there along the coastline of Mexico, although with what's been going on in the world, there probably aren't too many beachgoers right now. Look at that rainfall. Prolific rainfall over Mexico. Just right there, the Bay of Campeche, the Yucatan Peninsula, Tabasco and Campeche, you guys are just rained like mad, and all of this is going to be moving on into the Gulf of Mexico over the coming days. As a matter of fact, when I look at the rainfall over 168 hours, that's a week forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, look at the rain everywhere from Louisiana all the way over to Florida, the right side. So again, if Cristobal makes landfall in the mid-Louisiana coast, we will have a disorganized, lopsided circulation. Most of the heavy weather will probably be far removed. So if you live in Venice or Apalachicola, don't think that just because Cristobal might make landfall near Morgan City that you're not going to get anything. So again, the main threat with Cristobal right now will be heavy rainfall and flooding. areas of Mexico, but it will eventually move on up towards the Gulf Coast. Here's the water vapor loop, and again, this actually shows lightning. You could see in Appalachia and the Midwest a lot of afternoon thunderstorms with a lot of lightning, but all this is breaking down the ridging of high pressure to the north of Cristobal, and that's going to allow him to slide on up to the north and then probably the northwest. But again, all of this dark right here, this is dry air, very dry air, and that is very unfavorable for tropical development. Nevertheless, if you're in Florida today, don't be trying to sink any putts because there's a lot of lightning and rainfall, so not a good day to golf or to get out to the beach at all. And again, all this moisture is going to continue, this fetch of tropical moisture, and so don't expect it to be dry anytime soon along the north and northeastern Gulf Coast. And we'll continue to watch Cristobal as he eventually makes his way out into the Gulf of Mexico, headed for the Gulf Coast. Again, we'll wait and see what happens. Hurricane season's just getting started. Phil Klotzbach from Colorado State, great guy, met him on many occasions. He just released the new forecast for the season, and it calls for a very busy year of 19 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major Category 3 plus storms, and that does include Cristobal. So Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, that would still be 16 more storms on the way from what, by all accounts, is going to be a very busy Atlantic hurricane season. Just because it could be busy doesn't mean they'll hit, and it only takes one. We'll be watching the tropics with Cristobal and the heavy rain in Mexico and the Gulf Coast.